Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. I do certify we have a quorum. All 5 members are present. Opening prayer will be by Reverend Ralph Gorley of the First Baptist Church in Munster, Texas, followed by our pledges led by Commissioner Hollowell. Would everyone rise, please? We have Reverend Gorley with us. We do not have Reverend Gorley. Okay, I'll do the prayer. Lord, we love you and we need you. You could guide us today, make decisions that would glorify you, and serve the public. Lord, we ask you to watch over our first responders and military people all over the world. Give us the strength and guidance we need today, Lord, to make good decisions. Okay, do we have any public comments on agenda items? Anyone sign up? No one. All right. Item number 6 on the agenda is to deliberate and consider possible approval of proclamation declaring April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. I'll read the proclamation. Children are Cooke County's next generation of leaders and brightest ray of hope for the future. Every responsible person will agree that children deserve to grow up in a nurturing environment free from harm and fear. Sadly, child abuse, physical, sexual, or emotional, is far too common in our society. In 2020 alone, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services confirmed 47,913 cases of innocent children suffering from neglect or abuse, including 156 Cooke County children. Across the Lone Star State, children's advocacy groups, nonprofit organizations, social workers, and government agencies work daily to stop this unconscionable crime through education and awareness. We commend Child Protective Services, CASA of North Texas, Cooke County Child Advocacy Center, Cooke County Child Welfare Board, foster parents, law enforcement, and teachers for their commitment to preventing abuse here in Cooke County, mitigating the effects of abuse by serving children who have been victimized. Through their compassion and dedication, they create safe, happy, and healthy environments for children to grow and thrive. Each year, the month of April is dedicated to raising awareness of the pervasiveness of child abuse and promoting the safety and well-being of all children. At this time, the Commissioner Court encourage all Cooke County citizens to join us in renewing our commitment to preventing child abuse, to learn the signs of abuse, and to honor our duty as Texans to report any suspicions of abuse. We can all work toward a brighter future. Therefore, the Cooke County Commissioners Court does hereby proclaim April 2021 to be Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. I make a motion that we accept this proclamation. Happy second from Commissioner Art. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5. Oh, thank you. Do you want to do pictures real quick?
Thank you all for everything you do. I don't know. Oh, we're gonna go take pictures? Okay. He didn't invite us.
Take my mask down here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. A little history. Also want to pick up on the first COVID-19 case was diagnosed in Texas on March 4th, 2020. On March 5th, 2020, the Supreme Court issued their first emergency order, and the Office of Court Administration issued their first guidance to the courts in Texas. As you probably are aware, the Office of Court Administration is the state agency in the judicial branch that operates under the direction of the Texas Supreme Court, that provides resources and assistance and training to all of the courts in Texas, and therefore to me. So basically what happened, as you are aware, that all in-person proceedings stopped, both non-jury and jury. And prior to that time, we were averaging across Texas 186 jury trials a week in courts across Texas. So starting at that time, it seems like I've spent most of the past year under the requirements of the OCA and the Supreme Court, developing plans and submitting plans for the approval of the OCA, and the Texas Supreme Court submitting them to my regional presiding judge. I was required to prepare and submit an operating plan for non-jury proceedings. I believe, if you remember, I came and talked to you sometime in May and June, and that plan was submitted and required consulting the local health authority and the Commissioners Court. And then I was required to prepare a plan for operating jury trials. And we did that. And during the course of the year, it seems like there was, well, I would say down the road to the 36th guideline, and it seems like I spent about half my time preparing guidelines and plans. But that brings us up to March 5th of this year, 2021. We now have the 36th emergency order of the Supreme Court, which was effective immediately in response to Governor Abbott's late declaration. So I would like to emphasize to everyone that the 235th District Court was never closed during this past year. I've heard, they closed the court, but as you well know, the courthouse was never closed. The district courtroom was never closed. We held hearings every day. We held bench trials, some lasting several days. They were Zoom, they were conducted by video conferencing via Zoom and live stream on YouTube with some hearings were more interesting than others, and a lot of the public, probably more of the public, saw what went on in district court than had seen it previously. As you know, my court handled, my court, like some courts, handled civil cases, family law cases, and felony criminal cases. From March 1st of 2020, I checked the side of the Office of Court Administration. From March 1st, 2020, until February 28th of 2021, the year of the pandemic, we disposed of 1,112 cases. So we were working full-time. Like every other court in the state of Texas, the pandemic did cause a somewhat of a small backlog. Pending, if you look at the Office of Court Administration, that's who keeps statistics on all the courts throughout Texas. Pending, active cases pending on March 1st, 2020. Let you hold that. Can you hold that? Pending on March 1st, 2020, we had 1,654 cases. That's family, civil, and criminal. Pending on February 28th, 2021, we had 1,918 cases. So we do have a small backlog, 264 cases. That's nothing. We have 264 cases across family law, civil law, and criminal law. And I'm looking here, Denton County has a backlog of 2,417 cases. They have 10 district courts and 5 county courts at law and 5 specialty courts. So that's spread out over 20 courts. Collin County has a backlog of 2,000, Denton County, their backlog started at, they started with 12,011 cases, 3,120. Their active pending is 14,428, February 28. Collin County had pending March 1st, 20, 15,478. They have pending February 28, 21, 18,023. So their backlog is 2,545. Dallas County had pending 87,373, March 1st, 2020, pending February 28, 2021, 90,501. So their backlog is 3,128. So we are no different and probably in better shape than a lot of counties in the state of Texas in that we have a backlog, a small backlog of cases because of the pandemic. But during the pandemic, like I said, we started Zooming cases, and there are some things that we started doing during the pandemic that we're going to keep doing. We Zoomed the court appointments to people at the jail. They don't have to come to the courthouse anymore. I think that saves the jail manpower. I'm going to keep doing that even after this is all over. And we'll probably continue to do some sort of hybrid Zoom hearings even after, like I said, this is all over. And we started doing e-file. I was able to work from home even during the ICE period. So, everything has been operating. But what I really wanted to talk to you about is, where do we go from here? How do we operate going forward? This is not anything we cannot overcome with a little determination and a little hard work. I've already implemented a plan based upon the 36th emergency order of the Supreme Court that revised the criteria for in-person proceeding, including jury trials. Now, the latest plan required me, as the local administrative district judge, I am the local administrative district judge. I am the only local district judge. So it required me to meet with all the local judges, which I did. We met last week. I've met several times with Judge Starnes. I'd like to give personal thanks to Judge Starnes. He's been very proactive during this whole process. I've met with him several times. He's been very helpful during all this. We met with Judge Starnes, Judge Johnson, now I'm going to go Jody, Judge Jody. I talked with Judge Dockery and Judge Vaughn of the CPS Court and 4D Court, met with Judge Morris. I have to do two things. I have to come up with a minimum standard health protocol for court proceedings, for courtrooms and the public areas of court buildings for people that are coming into the court buildings to access the courts. And I have to come up with an in-person proceeding schedule for all the judges in the court buildings. So Tess is here. The OCA came out with guidelines for the minimum standard health protocols for court proceedings. She's going to hand that out. So, as you can see, they're very detailed. And I'll just go over them briefly with you. We will follow, and my jury plan that I submitted and was approved had done all of these things already. We are encouraged to continue to use remote as much as possible, which we will do. We have to come up with a scheduling order. That means that Judge Morris and I are going to come up with, and we've already discussed this, a scheduling order that, so he doesn't have, we don't have juries at the same time. We can't have the same people, two juries in the courthouse at the same time. Because of social distancing. We should limit the docket size. So as the local administrative judge, I'm responsible for coming up with that scheduling order. We have to send out notices to vulnerable populations on how we're going to keep them safe and how they can request to be excused. How to keep witnesses safe. We are going to have to screen people. Let me go ahead and hand out 1 and 2. When we start the jury selection, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to pick the jury at the Civic Center. Anytime we pick a jury, we're going to pick the jury at the Civic Center, because that's the only place that we can social distance. We already have done that with the grand jury. We picked a grand jury in January, and that required Miss Gilbert, the district clerk, and I to come up with a letter, because we were required to send a letter to the potential grand jurors, and now we're required to send that to the prospective jurors and tell them all the precautions that we have taken to ensure their safety. And you can see that letter there, go hand me one. It tells them everything that we've done to protect them. We are also required to hand out to prospective jurors the COVID questionnaire that, as you can see, it asks them if they've had any of these symptoms 10 days prior, if they've had contact with anybody with COVID, if they've had COVID, and the final one is if they are a member of the vulnerable population. If they have had any of those, they're to check that, they're to call, and they can be excused. And this required a lot of work on Ms. Gilbert's part and my part, and the jury selection is going to require extra work on her office and my office, as did the grand jury selection, but When we did the grand jury, her entire office was down there, my entire office was down there, and it went very smoothly. And, nobody complained, they just put their head down and did their job. But we took everyone's temperature. I don't know if the sheriff is here today. When people come from the jail, because sometimes inmates might have to come from the jail, their temperature has to be lower, 99.6. We have to maintain social distancing. We have to provide masks. Very early on, I'd gotten with Shelley, and Shelley very early on had already ordered the items that they required. During the pandemic, not only, jurors and witnesses have to wear masks, and that is for, obviously, the safety reasons. But when you're talking a criminal case, there's a constitutional reason that defense attorneys need to be able to see the facial expressions of the witnesses, of potential jurors, to see if they're grimacing or rolling their eyes. And so we also have to have face shields, which Shelley has ordered, I don't know how many. Those are face shields. So 10,000. So our potential jurors, they'll have to wear face masks, but and face shields, because they will have to take their face mask down when they're talking, so the attorneys can see their facial expressions, and they can only do that if they're immobile. So it's quite a complicated system. We have the hand sanitizers ordered. There has to be regular cleaning. Every time they got out before, during the grand jury selection, we had to have their chairs cleaned. Like I said, it's a lengthy process. We will, like I said, do the voir dire selection at the Civic Center. I'd also like to thank the City of Gainesville for making the Civic Center available to us. They did not charge us for using it for the grand jury. I'm hoping they're not going to charge us in the future for using it. But once we get the jury selected, we will come back here to do the trial, because we cannot use the Civic Center all week. So you still have to social distance in the courtroom. So once you come back to the trial, the jury's going to have to sit in the galley where the audience normally sits, because the jury box is not big enough. When the jury goes to deliberate, the jury room is too little. So they'll have to deliberate in another courtroom. Like if it's my trial, if Judge Morris's courtroom is available, they'll deliberate there. And we also discussed at the meeting with Judge Starnes, if this room is available, they could come down here and deliberate. So it's not going to be easy, but it's certainly doable. It also talks about, after anybody uses the microphone, you got to have a microphone cover, and that cover's got to be changed. Shelley's ordered all of those. That's covered. The exhibits have got to be reduced to digital form, so the jury doesn't handle it. If it's something they have to handle, we have to have single-use gloves. But I think Shelley has all that covered. So this is something that we've been planning, and all these rules start at the courthouse door for any individual coming into a courtroom. We know that Governor Abbott said, you don't have to wear a mask, but as a judge, you can require face coverings and masks. So we will, because that's the minimum standard protocol. So again, as the local administrative district judge, I must approve all jury trials. That's all jury trials, felony and misdemeanor have to go through me. So we have already started. I need my jury trial schedule. We have already started with scheduling jury trials. We have set a jury trial docket for April 12th and April 26th. My goal is to set the defendants who've been in jail the longest awaiting trial, those people who have been denied their liberty awaiting trial. I sent a letter out March 16th setting 12 defendants that between them have 26 cases. That letter went out March 13th. 3 days later, 2 of them already pled guilty to a lower plea bargain. The mere fact of scheduling jury trials will cause these cases to move. We had defendants during the pandemic, knowing that we weren't setting jury trials, saying, I want a jury trial, I want a jury trial, I want a jury trial. Well, now it turns out, maybe I don't want a jury trial. So that the mere fact that we can now have a jury trial is causing these cases to move. And I am informed that one other individual with 1, 2, 3, 4 cases on that list is set to plead on the 25th, and another one with 2 cases is set to plead on the 25th. So just setting these for a jury trial has resulted in a substantial plea. We had 13 pleas on Friday. 4 of those people had been in jail for a substantial length of time. The Code of Criminal Procedure says, insofar as practical, criminal cases take precedence over civil. Of those criminal cases, those detained in jail take precedence. Of those criminal cases where the victim is younger than 14 years of age, those take precedence, and those where the defendant has been determined to be incompetent, but competency has been restored, those take precedence. So my very first one, and this one is now going to plead, was a continuous sexual abuse of a child. The next one is aggravated sexual assault of a child. So that's, I'm focusing on those that are in jail. I'm excited to start jury trials again. I'm excited that we're going to be able to start jury trials. I think we've got some hard work ahead of us, but again, it's not insurmountable. I looked at the indictments. In 2017, we had 657 new indictments. In 2018, we had 652. In 2019, there was a jump to 973. That year, there was 187 dismissals. In 2020, it was down to 636. So the indictments were down last year. Now, I looked at the county court at law statistics I got from Pam, and it looks like criminal cases filings had decreased in the county court too, steadily since 2017. In 2017, there was 1,536 filings. In 2018, there was 1,336. In 2019, there was 1,123. In 2020, there was 764. So last year, there was less than half than what there was 3 years before. I talked with Captain Phillips at the Gainesville Police Department, and he says, according to the Uniform Crime Reporting Program, violent crime in Gainesville has decreased the last 7 years. From 2018 to 2019, 6.3% decrease. Drug offenses in the city of Gainesville decreased, and we have virtually no gang activity anymore. He did tell me that during the pandemic, when the schools were closed and the juveniles were out in school, that some property crime did go up a little, but that's misdemeanors and juveniles. So moving forward, at least initially, my focus is going to be on trying criminal cases. We have 3 lawyers in the district attorney's office. If all 3 prepare and try cases, we shouldn't have a problem. Again, I'm going to focus on the people in the jail. Other cases that take precedence in addition to criminal cases are the CPS cases. They, by law, have a time frame. You have a certain amount of time. That time has been extended because of the pandemic, but you have a certain amount of time by law to either return the child to the home or do a termination of parental rights. Judge Vaughn, with the CPS court, has agreed to initially, she was doing all the preliminary hearings and I was going to do the trials. In our meetings and discussions with Judge Starnes, she has agreed to do the jury trials and, on those that need to be tried. Again, she's going to have to use the Civic Center, so we're going to have to coordinate that. Her and Judge Johnson have already had discussions about their courtroom over there. So she stepped up and she's agreed to do that so I can concentrate on the criminal trials. So I believe those CPS cases, the felony criminal trials, are the priority. Now, there's also been talk of the legislature approving more funding for visiting judges to help trial courts with this backlog. You know, across the state, you know, there's like I said, we're no different and maybe in better shape than a lot of counties. I understand, well, and recently the law changed that the county court at law that we have civil jurisdiction, concurrent civil jurisdiction in civil cases. It used to be county court at law could only go up to 200,000, and we had agreed among ourselves and had signed a local agreement that any case that was filed in the district court where the amount in controversy in a civil case, say there was a car wreck or a slip and fall, where they were suing for less than 200,000, Judge Morris and I agreed that if they filed that in district court, we'd transfer it over to the county court at law. That changed to raise their limit on jurisdiction to 250,000. So I intend to get with Judge Morris, maybe we can transfer cases up to 250,000. So that'll help the civil cases in the district court. So that went up to 250,000. So maybe more civil cases can be filed in the county court of law to help the burden on the district court. And I think Mr. Clement, Hollowell, y'all were on the court. I don't know if Mr. Snubs was when we had the legislation passed, because when the county court at law was initially set up, it did not have any family law jurisdiction, but legislation was passed to give the county court at law family law jurisdiction. We haven't availed ourselves of that, but if I need to focus on the criminal cases, and I think have you talked to Judge Morris? I think you said something about maybe talking to Judge Morris.
I have, and he's willing to do that. I don't want to speak for him. He did want to discuss it with you and make sure he understood all of it.
So
how to proceed.
Okay, so if we get in a bind with me trying more criminal cases, he can take up some of the family law cases. So, you know, all working to get on, you know, if we all put our heads down and work together, you know, it's going to be okay. We're open for business. So I just wanted to give you an update, tell you we are starting jury trials again, and see if y'all had any questions.
So CPS court's going to open up too, just like.
Yes, she's going to be available starting May 1st for jury trials.
And you brought up associate judges and.
Excuse me?
I'm hearing myself talk back. I don't know what happened. Is it okay? Okay. You had brought up the term associate judge, so if everybody's looking for an associate judge, how do you get one? I know it may be a dumb question.
Well, they're associate judge.
Okay, that'd be your associate judge.
No, I don't need it. The CPS, that's considered an associate.
That's considered your associate judge.
We have the CPS court judge, and we have the 4D judge. But she hears the child support cases for people that are receiving government aid.
And special prosecutors, if you get behind on that, I've heard that term bandied around too.
Actually, yes, special prosecutors. I watched the meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, whenever y'all had a meeting, and I think that term was brought up about special prosecutors. And sure, that's certainly an option. We are actually blessed here in Cooke County that we have several former assistant district attorneys and district attorneys practicing in Cooke County. And after I heard that, I actually spoke to two of them. One was a former district attorney in West Texas, and another was her assistant district attorney. Ms. Switzer was a former district attorney, and Ms. Roney was her former assistant district attorney with very much a lot of experience. And I asked him, I said, would you be willing to serve as a special prosecutor to help try some of these cases? And they both said, absolutely. They enjoyed prosecuting cases, they missed prosecuting cases, and they'd be happy to do it. James Moss is a former assistant district attorney in Fannin County. I haven't asked him, but I think he likes the courtroom too. So, you know, that's always an option, just to move these cases while
While
we're,
you're covered up.
yeah. But like I said, I think just the fact that we're able to set them for a jury trial, it's going to make a big impact.
Get rid of a lot of them, probably so.
Thank you. Very informative. Any other questions?
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good day. Thank you so much.
You too.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Having a motion from Commissioner Snuggs to approve the consent agenda. A second from Commissioner Hollowell. Any further discussion? You feel comfortable, Commissioner Art, with what you're selling off? Any further discussions? All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is accepted, 5-1. Item number 9, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding Treasurer's monthly report for February 2021.
Patty's watching on YouTube. If by chance we have questions for her, she said she would come over.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Snuggs,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Leon. Treasurer's monthly report. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Treasurer's monthly report is accepted. Item number 10, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding the Cooke County Coronavirus Administrative Leave Policy. The mouthful.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the county coronavirus administrative leave policy is the county policy that allows employees to receive pay when off work with COVID or a COVID quarantine. This policy that we currently have will end March 31st. So I'm bringing this before you all today so that a decision can be made to either extend or end the policy. Ending this policy would require the employees to use their own time if they were quarantined or diagnosed with COVID. The federal requirement to provide the leave has expired, our numbers are declining, and the vaccine has been made available to many of our employees. Based on this, I would recommend ending the policy as is and only allowing paid time off up to 48 hours in the event an employer receives the vaccine and has a reaction to it that prohibits the employee from coming to work. If the court does approve the 48 hours pay for a vaccine reaction, I would recommend that the court place a expiration date on that also, which could be 6 months from now, maybe September 30th possibly.
So do we get any reimbursement for those times that they're off? Is that still in place? Is there a grant? Shelley?
I don't know the only grant we have left is the Fema grant. If we did, it'd be 75%.
Okay, so this was originally under the CARES Act, I'm assuming?
That's correct.
I make the motion, we accept her recommendation to end it. The 31st of this month, is that correct?
That's correct.
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Snuggs. Any further discussion?
So, how does that affect everything else? As far as mask wearing and all that is concerned, and temperature checking as you walk in and everything, we're going to still mandate that?
This policy doesn't address any of those
I know, but
items.
they kind of go together.
We can,
What does that say? I hate to be a sticky wicket here, but I just been thinking, which I know gets dangerous from time to time, but just asking. Nobody has a comment?
sure, I'll comment on that. The protocol for the courthouse remains the same by directive from OCA. So yes, I understand what you're saying, is we're saying that you have to continue to wear a mask, continue to do the normal protocol, but then we're not going to compensate people when they're off.
And I think it's good to be proactive and take those steps to keep people from spreading the virus. But it's also the responsibility of the employees to do that in their own time too, to take those steps to.
Have you ever been using it? In
We
general
did,
terms?
using the leave.
Yeah.
We have one this payroll. We had 2 last payroll.
You said abusing.
Oh, abusing, I thought you said using.
Abusing.
Uh,
That's a pretty broad term.
Yeah, I mean, I've had documentation for everything that's
Okay.
been
Just
changed.
curious. It's not bad, though.
And there are some that have had more leave than others.
It's just a question.
There's a lot of subjectivity, I guess, that's
Subjectivity.
involved in determining whether this is really applicable or not. So do they have to have a doctor's note saying that they do have COVID? And is there a length of time that they're restricted to?
They do bring a doctor's note that says that they are positive for COVID. And then we follow the CDC guidelines as far as them being off work and how long they have to be off work. The difficulty, I guess, comes in the quarantines where I can't really necessarily always get something that says they're quarantined because of, they may bring a doctor's note that mom has it or the husband or wife has it. But sometimes it's a friend or somebody they've been around, and it's, you just have to make a judgment call of.
So we're actually extending it to people that have been in contact with people that have COVID, is that
If
correct?
they have been in direct contact with them.
That's the way it was at first. There's a lot of unknowns. They were quarantining. So let's say a family member had it and they quarantined the whole family. It was, how do you deal with that? You'd have to deal with it like an illness. Am I correct? And
Correct.
that's the way that went. But,
Anything else?
no, just questions. I want to.
Oh, fair enough. Any further discussion? Any other questions?
If you have let's say, there's a lot of ifs out there. I just assume get rid of the mask myself. But if this comes back, we can always go back to this.
Yes, the court can always
We got
recreate a policy.
surge or whatever. Yeah, we can always revisit at that point. Okay. Just making sure.
Okay, all of those in favor of rescinding the current leave policy as it applies to COVID, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
And
We'll rescind it.
will we cover the vaccine reactions for 48 hours?
that part of this policy or
It's not part of the policy. It was something that was discussed when we discussed the policy previously.
No, I thought it was part of it because it was written up in here.
Part of your proposal, right?
It's part of the proposal, not part of the current policy that we have.
I think the intent was to accept it.
I thought the intent was to,
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
just want to be clear.
Okay, for clarification purposes, that also affects the 48-hour vaccination reaction. Is that a
Okay.
good term? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 11, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding courthouse annex remodel. We have anyone that wants to speak to that?
What'd we end up with? Oh, I was looking for an email where we're talking about reinforcing the floor again and the cost associated with that if we decide to expand the size of that courtroom.
We don't really have a solid figure. The gentleman from Komatsu was speculating that he believes it'll be somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000 to reinforce that area.
Is he wanting to add an additional 17 for his efforts on that?
Yes, he is. I passed that on to you guys. That was a little concerning.
do we not have the wrong floor joist up there? Wasn't that said?
They only reinforce the side where the storerooms are.
That is correct.
That's the only,
I understand, but Mr. Sacy said that day in here that they got up and there's not commercial floor joists on that front, on the south side. That's what I heard him say. And they were surprised. It was, Counselor, did you hear that? Would you speak to that a little bit? Do you mind? That was said in here that day, which surprised me. So if it was, according to their drawing, supposed to have had commercial joists and it doesn't,
but the contractor's not in business anymore.
The standard of care in Texas for architects and engineers, when they are contracted to construct something or to modify or whatever, is that they are supervisors over that event. So they have the responsibility for making sure that it complies with the contractual terms, which also means that they're supposed to be supervising the operations of that contractor. When I was in here for that meeting, it struck me that he was rather surprised that the wrong floor joists were put in place. If they were in fact the wrong floor joists that were specified for that project, and the contractor put the wrong ones in, and the architect was hired to supervise it, the architect ought to have to absorb the cost of that. That's my view.
My understanding, we're just talking about the north side, not the south side. Because we only enforced the north side, we never enforced the south
Well,
side.
the impression I got from this conversation was the wrong joists were put in.
they said they got up in the ceiling. I think it was above that courtroom. Was Ricky in here? You remember that?
Yeah, that's where they looked.
That's where they looked, it was above the courtroom on the south side. And that's what he said in here that day.
We didn't do anything on the south side.
Oh, yeah, not to.
Restructure the floor.
Well, that's what was said in here that day, and that is where they looked, and he made the remarks. I didn't.
My understanding, the only thing we reinforced were the storages, that we didn't reinforce the south side, or the north, the south side at all.
Do you have a copy of the contract? Is there a scope of work?
I need to look at that. I've never had that. That was done, when was that done?
Oh, golly. Shelley, when was that done? 7, 8?
We moved in 2000, we bought the building in, we moved over there in 2008. We bought the building 2007.
Well, we need to dig up that contract. We need to look at it and look what the specs are for that construction.
I agree. We need to understand what the scope of work was.
Right.
Now, you go back and watch the video, Stacy said, I mean, yeah, you were here, I'm not trying to.
No, I heard what you said, but I think it's out of context to the south side, guys. Could be wrong. But we have had more recent conversation about if we put too many people up there, that they were concerned about weight. And so I thought that one reason we changed our mind for putting a conference room or anything, a whole large number of people up there was the weight concern.
And part of the discussion was that the floor joist wasn't heavy enough up there. So I don't know, that's something you need to look into.
No, I don't disagree with that comment at all, as far as to holding, but we had a number of people that we could put up there. Seemed like the number per side was 50. Since Adam, you've been around since then, so the number per side is 50. It's what I seem to recall.
I'm curious as to how the commissioners are being moved again. I was told there was a plan. Now, we went through this 5 years ago, and we kind of tossed that aside, and all of a sudden I find out that we're back to moving the commissioners again, and I find it interesting in the middle of a pandemic where people have lost their livelihoods and jobs. We just purchased a building with 3 floors of offices with conference rooms and everything that we would spend money moving us. I still have the emails from the last time where Judge Brinkley we had a committee that surprised us that we were going to move. One day I was told, you need to pick out your furniture, you're going to move. And the Historical Commission cannot force us not to move, but I went and looked up the old email traffic. They don't want the commissioners or the commissioners court out of this courthouse. If there's any way they could keep us here, they wanted to help keep us here. Because that was all part of the contract. Virgil Hess is the one who negotiated that with commissioners court at that time, that the historic court offices and those people associated, DAs, county attorneys, and the commissioners, which is considered part of the county court system, commissioners court, they didn't want us to move. And now, all of a sudden, this has been resurrected again, that we're going to move, and I don't understand why. You had mentioned we don't have a proper professional office with a meeting room or a boardroom. Like I said, there's 3 floors of it over there. And I think it's, at this time in the economy and the way things are going and all the help that people think they need, I don't think it's proper for the commissioners to set a bad example and build ourselves a new suite of offices. If someone has a problem, they want my office, I'll swap offices with somebody. I'll even take the one in the corner with the bathroom.
Can't have that one.
Well, okay.
Come on now.
But, you know, it troubles me when I hear the words, there's a plan, you know, the plan to move you all. We're supposed to, if we had a plan, I thought it died 5 years ago. Actually, when was this? 2016, 2015. Yeah, this goes back to November 2015, October 2015. So I think the main problem we have is to get Pam a place, try to figure out what to do with the JP. But commissioners are in charge of facilities, and I think we're at the core of the operations of the courthouse and all the buildings. I think it's a waste of taxpayer money.
Any further discussion? There's no line item for action in this particular.
No, I know there's no line item from action, but for the last 6 years, the way things tended to go in our meetings was something would be talked about for months without everyone's knowledge about it, and it would show up on a meeting to decide or not to decide, and that's really not the proper way. I know it doesn't say anything about we're going to take any action. It doesn't also say anything in here about what we were going to move up there. And I think the public deserves to know what we are planning to spend money on before
We just bring it to a meeting and vote on it. It's the wrong way to run county business. Whether the DA's office needs more help, or the clerk's office needs more help, or I need more help, it's supposed to be discussed up here, or whether we need a new office. And I get a little nervous when I hear, there's a plan, and I don't know anything about the plan.
I would say I'm probably the one that resurrected that. Conversations, as you discussed, did happen in '05. We did establish a committee. That committee consisted of the sheriff, maintenance, auditor's office, commissioners. The Commissioners Court actually established the committee. And when Commissioners Court came back with their recommendation, then the Commissioners Court, at that point in time, chose not to support it.
Chose not to support it at that time, and that committee was kind of like that radio tower committee. I got a phone call one day and said, they're going to move you out in a couple of weeks. I said, the heck they are. They're going to move me out. They haven't done anything. Well, the committee never reported back to anyone. A member of the committee was one that let me know what was happening. There was never any reports, and actually it offends the heck out of me when we conduct business that way, whether we're trying to pick a new software for the court system or we're going to do a study of the court system. It troubles me that I find items that are dated from 3 and 4 and 5 months ago that have been talked around to spend money, and then it might presumably turn up here for me to vote. And I'm not against changing anything. I just think our duty as business people for the county and representatives of the people for the county behooves us to really be careful that the public actually knows what we are doing. I've heard the word transparency more in the last 3 or 4 months than I've heard in the past 12 years. And I'm going to make sure we're going to be transparent. Public has a right to know, especially in these times. I mean, the only reason for bringing the mask thing up, I don't like the mask at all. I think it's almost foolish in some respects, but we're going to require, and I understand the Supreme Court says we have to, but the conundrum of government, we're going to tell people that if they think they have COVID, they don't get and I voted for it. I understand why you're doing it, but it confuses the public. Anyway, that's my soapbox speech.
Anything
I got a
else?
little second grade artwork that I'd take one, pass them down. I don't want to spend the next 12 years doing nothing, which we have a tendency to do.
Oh, we've done a lot.
Keep something on the table associated with this. And I'm focused not on the commissioner's side at this point in time. Everybody have one? If you look at the bold black, this is just something to throw out there. That would be the perimeter of the JP court. If you see the blue highlighted area, well, first off, I would expand the 2 offices in the corner, both of them saying JP1, JP2. Extend those out to the bold line in the center and actually designate one of those for the constable. They could exit their offices. There's a doorway directly in front of where it says bench. That's the blue highlight in case you can't see the handwriting. Directly in front of that, the 2 yellow highlighted areas would be council benches. The green area to the left where you would see the jurors possibly. And then, of course, you could leave the gallery where it is. I would go over where you see the orange mark, the first one where it says receptionist, that's REQ. If you're from the bottom up, the first orange mark. I would, and at their request, what I would do is I'd put a door to get into the complex, and I'd add a payment window right there in front of the receptionist. And then I would create a second workstation where it currently says receptionist, a third workstation where the other orange highlight is. You see where I've written in storage to the left of that. the pink highlight where the 4 chairs are sitting, below where it says meeting area, that appears to be some type of wall. Eliminate that wall and create the open air environment so that all of the admin folks can communicate, have line of sight. And then, of course, the jury room would be, or the meeting room would also double as a jury room. That, I mean, Valley View, there was no courtroom. And several months ago, years ago, a couple, 3 or 4 years ago, we actually created that courtroom that's housing some of Pam's stuff now. And I don't know how I missed or dropped the ball there, but the judge's office was in the back of it, and the courtroom was where Pam's stuff is now. But yet we, like I said, somehow we didn't go ahead and follow up and give the judge a courtroom there.
Okay, my 2 cents worth here. The most important thing is getting Pam in a position for November to be able to do elections downstairs. In order to do that, IT has to go upstairs, and we can move IT upstairs immediately. We could put that on the agenda for the next court if we chose to. There's nothing keeping us from doing that.
I don't think so, Judge.
The structural part of that is available. The other portion where we have a structural integrity issue, I think that we need to have a special court and decide how we move forward. Because if we don't do something with the structural problem and we go ahead and move the JPs up there, then we run the risk of having to tear out the floors where the JPs are at and doing the same job twice. So I'll set up, if everybody's in agreement, to a workshop later this week to go in more detail, and then we can come back in next court, and we may have 1 or 2 or 3 options to vote on. But the primary thing here is getting the JPs upstairs and getting IT upstairs. Am I wrong? I mean, somebody speak up here if I'm wrong.
I don't think you're constructionally ready to put IT upstairs, Judge. That needs a considerable amount of work, some structural work, partitions, electronics, or HVAC maybe.
But we could move on that, though.
You're talking about we need to make the decision and get started to get it done.
Yes.
That's what you're
We can't do it
talking
this
about.
afternoon, but there's no reason
okay.
for us not to go ahead and start the process to get that done.
I'm sorry, when you said we could move them next week,
No, he means move on. He means move on starting. So your concern, Commissioner Hollowell, is we're building too big a courtroom upstairs.
well, also because we knew we had a weight issue and they told us we could put up to 50 people on either side of that. And I think if we reduce the size of the courtroom, that you won't have 50 people up there.
Well, I just know, we went and looked at Jody Henry's courtroom out at the jail, and he said it's barely big enough. And my concern is, if we're going to do it, let's do it right the first time. And whether it needs to be bigger or smaller, I'd rather have it plenty large, because you never know. They might start prosecuting somebody every day, and they may need another courtroom. I don't know. I don't think.
Olivia,
and-
you don't mind weighing into this? Do you see a point where we're going to need another district courtroom? Are we headed in that direction, in your opinion?
And I'm not trying to tell you that. You understand where I'm coming from. If we're going to build it, let's build it right the first time. I know, I'm not trying to tell you, you got to go over there and do.
Ed, do you have some insight here?
And another district court in this county, then, I mean, it's one of those eventually the next stage in 4 years. I mean, at some point, yes, we're going to have a district court.
It could happen sooner rather than later.
If you're gonna build a courtroom, make it available. Alternate. The judge presides wherever that
Yes.
hearing is. So if you had an overflow,
We have circumstances, we have a case carried
over,
you can have with those.
both jurors and that. Unless you're gonna build a courtroom, have 12 seats, plus a law.
Another issue is within current jurisdiction, if we utilize that, if versus courtroom has jury being 6, if they were having a civil trial and they needed 12, that might be an option as well.
And when we have a juvenile that wants to trial and determine a sentence, that has to be go first. we need those 12 seats, how to build it there.
I don't question at some point we will need one. I think that we've got a press building, we still have to determine how we're going to occupy it. We've also been told that this area won't accommodate voir dire. We're not always going to use the Civic Center, I wouldn't think, for jury selection. If we want to build a truly usable district courtroom, we go do it in the Crest Building. It might be a consideration. I don't think that you put a district court up there with that small break area and those 2 restrooms that you're going to accommodate a jury panel or trying to acquire a jury panel. I mean, we've seen them fill this courtroom down here and have the whole second floor standing around. You don't have that kind of space over there. And I personally think to consider that for a district court's a mistake. You're going to spend a considerable amount of money shoring up the floor and things of that nature, and you're still not going to have room to accommodate the public.
We don't know what we're going to spend shoring up the floor, because I'm still trying to figure out why the man got up and said we had the wrong floor choice on the front of that building. And I don't know. I know what he said, and everybody heard it that day. So we got a lot of ifs and buts to cover. But
during my time as JP, it was very rarely ever did you have a courtroom after the justice center. I think it was going to be a designated JP courtroom. I don't think it would really have to be as large. We had extra chairs that we could set up out there if we needed them, and during my terms, we never went to get those out in Philadelphia.
and this isn't that big of a courtroom. We're not,
Doing that.
And we've heard that continuously from the JPs, you know, and statistics prove out that they do 2 or 3 jury trials a year, and most of it can be handled in this office with your plaintiff and defendant directly in front of you. That's real life and supported by statistics.
Okay. Any other discussion?
no, but
We'll take no action at this time, and I'll set up a workshop.
But to throw the Crest Building into there, yeah, it'll take quite a bit to throw you a courtroom in there too.
Well, if we're going to build one, it's, you know,
I
dollar
don't
for
know,
dollar.
I don't know if we're gonna,
Instead of squeeze something in and do it like our Commissioners Court, where we're in sardines, like in a can, you know?
what's wrong with Commissioners Court?
Other than it's not a very professional environment, what should be the executive officers of the county government.
Oh,
Should be.
I thought it would serve just fine.
Well,
Apparently, I'm satisfied with less goodies than some people are.
well, I'm in.
I'm more worried about the look than the fluff and the stuff.
Okay, well, we'll discuss it in workshop later this week, guys. Let's move on. Item 11, deliberate and consider possible action regarding, move to 12, I apologize. No action on 11. Deliberate and consider possible actions regarding repair and replacement of damaged roof on county buildings. Rick, I think you've given us a handout here. Everybody have it from Texas Roof Manufacturing Incorporated.
So I did get a sort of a report and an evaluation and a recommendation, Texas Roof Management. They are the roofing company that installed the roof on the building now in '05. Exterior restoration of the courthouse was done. So the first portion of it is a summary of the existing roof system that's there. Now, it's just a basic summary there of what they actually did to the roof at that time. They pulled off the existing roofing. There were 2 layers of roofing on it. Pulled off the top layer, and they chose to leave that under layer on it. They felt like the integrity of it was good enough. So at this time, it actually has 2 layers of roof on it. So there, and I sent you guys email conversation. What his final assessment was, if we lay another layer of roofing on top of it there, then you have 3 layers. That's in violation of most building codes have 3 layers. His opinion, his assessment, and mine also, move the roof that's there and then go back with the same type of roofing. What we need is just direction. Then we just tell them which direction we go. They're sitting and waiting to. Dr. Franklin's recommendation is that we go with the PVC roofing and overlay it over up there. If we don't tell him different, that's the direction he's going. We just need to instruct him on how we want it done.
These folks that done it in 2005, you say, something,
Yes.
they replaced it before?
Yes.
Are they, would they truly be considered an independent opinion or consultant? You know, we had some concerns we were looking, I thought, for an independent input to help solve our problem. But would these guys, being as they have a dog in the hunt, would they be an independent third party?
I don't know that. I was just looking for somebody who had information about the roof that could tell us what was going on with it. And they're the ones that installed it. So when it goes to bid, these guys will be bidding on the job. It'll just be a bid process like any other.
I certainly don't recommend putting another one on there. Now, whether we go out and look for another expert opinion, that's fine, but my experience, and I've never owned a building of this size, but my experience is out at Weber, we got into putting multiple layers, and it ended up being more complication and actually tainted the integrity of the subflooring. So I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to put another layer on.
How many layers are on it?
2 now.
2 now. Well, you're talking about 2 different roof systems. You're talking about a tar of gravel, which
Yeah, we are. Yeah, absolutely.
it's a whole different ball of wax, but then again, you don't want to just keep slapping another one over the top of it, because
But one of our concerns was actually what type of material was going to be. Yeah. Don't feel like you got that answered, you know.
Well, have you had any problems with the roof you have today?
Very little at all.
And do we have someone we could talk to that has the roof that they're recommending?
Yeah, we do.
I
We
know
have,
this one, but not the one that the guy from PAC is recommending.
yes,
Oh, we do?
we do on the DPS building.
Okay.
We have that type of roof.
And how long has it been in place?
Since 11 or 12.
something like that.
And have we had any problems with it?
We had problems when they put it on.
We had initial problems, but that was the installer.
That was the installer.
I don't question that the roofing system that they're recommending is a good product. I don't question that. My main concern is laying it over what we already have, which is what's proposed. And secondly, the usability of it. We go up there as maintenance all the time. Security is up there regularly. PD and the sheriff's office is up there every time they have a parade or whatever. And we're just on that roof a lot.
Yeah, road traffic on that roof, and you do on a typical roof.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I forgot about,
And the
law
chiller,
enforcement, everybody
yeah.
uses that roof.
Chiller is up there, so we're working on it all the time. Lights are up there, the clock is up there. We're up there all the time. Those other roofs get slick there. It's a hazardous thing. And that's my bigger concern. That's the 2 things that I'm concerned about, is putting a 3rd layer on it and then putting that type of material. It's not user friendly at all.
Would you be okay with his proposed roof if they remove the layers?
Well, you still have that slick roofing product that he's putting on there.
You think the durability of what's up there now, another roof like that would be better than that
Yes,
It looks like a swimming pool.
swimming pool
is
liner,
what
yes,
it
that's
looks
what
like.
it looks like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The one on the DPS.
The one on the DPS
Yeah.
bill and what he's proposing. It's a PVC product.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So if we decided to go with TRM's recommendation, there's still a number of people that we could bid this to that does that same roofing?
Yes.
Not getting into a single source.
No, I don't think so. There's two ways, and Shelley can speak to this better than I can. Scott Franklin was also suggesting that we could just go through the state contract people, wouldn't necessarily have to do the bid process.
Right.
And I don't know for a fact, but I assume Texas Roof Management is a part of that. Let's check that.
We'd have to check it. But the money we received for this, I moved to this year.
Okay.
Cover.
And as far as I know, it's not going to cost us any more money, cost us any, because the insurance or TAC will pay for whatever we decide to put on there. And if the money that they send's not enough, they'll cover the rest of the cost.
Well, we had $1,000 deductible,
Correct.
and then what they've sent us for both roofs.
Okay.
So if we decided to go with TRM's recommendation, the people from TAC would still oversee the installation?
Yeah. If we want them to, we can tell them to go away and we can handle it ourselves. But they offer that service for us. And it's a good service. I mean, that guy's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's doing.
That's the consultant.
Yeah, the consultant.
But even though we can do it off the buy board, we're going to go through the bid process. We don't have to, but that makes them a sole source when we do that.
Well, if you buy them off if you get them through the co-ops, they've already bid. It's already at the lowest price.
And there are multiple ones to choose from.
Right.
Even within that.
So the bottom line
They've already been vetted.
is, go this way, you would simply call the guy at TAC and say, hey, we want to take off one there, and we want to put this back down, go on about your business. And they would select us.
Now, if you take this one layer, how much of that sub-layer you're going to end up getting that makes the roof drain so well? Are you going to be able to, they got to replace all that too? That's all going to be replaced? Yeah, okay.
In the description there's several layers, but it's a process. But all that comes off, and they put it all back in.
And they'll, yeah,
But what they won't take off is that bottom layer they call cold tar,
yeah,
which is original to the building, probably
yeah.
100 years ago or something.
Well, I know it's not fun to, I mean, it's not, what's the word, exciting to talk about, but that roof does drain. Since I was involved in the construction, everyone always bragged how well the roof drained, and I know that's not an exciting thing to discuss, but when
But
you
it's
consider some of
important.
the other roofs we've had around here that leak,
Yes.
especially on this old building, got to make sure it gets done right if you take all
Very,
that back out.
yes, yes.
The roofing company that came and talked to you, where did they come from? But did the consultant send them to talk to you?
No, I
Okay.
called them because they're the contractor that put this roof on.
Okay. We'd have to look to see if they're on a co-op.
Yeah.
So what we need to do? We need to give them some direction. And my way of thinking is I like the idea of tearing off the first one. I think that we should tell TAC that we want them to do the administrative part of it, selecting the contractor, but this is the process and the materials that we want to use.
Sounds good to me.
Actually, accept it, so they actually, get us contractors?
Well, the
This
consultant,
consultant is, he
he's
does,
familiar with the co-ops and which
That's all he deals with.
companies.
Yeah.
But
He goes off and sets somebody up with the TRM. We're okay.
I am personally, Rick.
yeah, he will. What he's supposed to do, as I understand it, is he will draw up a set of specifications for the job and have a contractor meeting. He will supervise all that, tax paying him to do that. And then he and us, we're involved in that, select a contractor to do the job. He then will supervise the job till it's completed. Now, in the mix is the THC that's saying, okay, I want to see what your specs are as well, because the first thing he came out with is take the coping off the top of the building, which is a 100-year-old stone. So THC said, nope, stop, so that's what we're waiting on. We tell him what kind of material, that he's gonna write up the specs, send it to THC. THC will approve it or get him to correct it, whatever. And then that will free him up to go vet contractors, have a contractors meeting, and then we can start moving forward with the process.
We don't need to be messing with the 100-year-old stone, because we've
No.
got enough trouble with that the way it is.
And that's not the way it's done now. That's why I was curious. That must have just been a form letter or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need a motion to proceed with this style roof.
I believe so.
I'll make a motion, we proceed with this style roof.
Have a motion from Commissioner Clement.
I'd add to that, if you guys want to ensure you get the first layer removed, you probably need to add that to your motion.
The way I was going to word the motion is that we would accept the recommendations from Texas
Yeah.
Roof Management Incorporated.
That sounds fine to me. We're going to accept the recommendations of Texas Roof Management.
Okay, that, you, and so we're recommending their recommendation? Are we going to get TAC to go look for a?
No, that's not all of the action. We're going to recommend their, accept their recommendations to be administered by TAC.
Rick, you want to send me that? So we can look to see if they're on co-op?
So I have a motion from Commissioner Clement to accept Texas Roofing Management Incorporation's recommendation, however, with it being supervised by TAC.
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Hollowell. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you very much, Rick. Just make sure that TAC selects the supplier and oversees the job.
He's gung ho ready to do that. He's waiting on instructions from us.
All right. Item number 12, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding, whoops, I'm doing that a lot today, aren't I? Let's move down to item number 13. Deliberate and consider possible actions regarding the Crest Building. If you would, Rick, hang around. The court, in my way of thinking, needs to be updated on where we're at with the leak for the fire system.
Talked with the city last Friday, and they instructed me that I needed to contact TxDOT and to work, to move forward, getting permitting to work in the street. So I was finally able to get a hold of TxDOT this morning, right, it's kind of while I was late coming here. And the engineer told me that he didn't understand why the city couldn't handle it. He said, they always do. Permit process, it has to happen. You have to go online, fill it out. They do that all the time. But he said, for somebody like us who's never done it before, it's kind of complicated to figure it out. So,
Can I make a recommendation?
please,
You ought to get yourself involved in this, Judge, and make a couple of, no offense to, you're doing a
Please.
fine job,
please.
but you carry a little more.
I'll reach out to Barry. Is that the appropriate person to make contact with TxDOT?
Ron Selman would be the one,
I have
that's
his
his,
number too.
that's his department.
And then TxDOT is Mike Allen.
Mike is who I talked to this morning.
Yeah.
So he's waiting for something from the city.
Here's what he said, they didn't know anything about it. TxDOT didn't. He said, we're willing to help you, whatever we need to do. But, he did say this, if we need to turn the water off, he said that's considered an emergency type situation. You don't have to have a permit, just go out there and do it. He said, I don't understand why they were asked to stop. He said, if anybody had called me about it, I told them, turn the water off.
Okay.
Well, that solves that problem, maybe.
Sounds like it. I'll call Ron.
He said, of course, we require to pass the hole back when you do it, so people can drive over it. But he said, if you have a water leak, you need to turn the water off. It's an emergency, you don't have to have a permit to do that.
Okay.
So, anyway, I'll get with you more on everything that he said about it. It's kind of a process, and he said it's gonna be sticky working on it right there, because there are power lines coming to those traffic lights and everything else. He said, we're gonna have to be careful when we work there, but, that's where we are.
Okay.
I did find out who has worked in the past on the elevator,
Yes.
and, talked to Misty Smith, she's the one that got that information. She said, as far as she knew, the elevator was working the last time she knew anything about it. But it was not inspected last year. Last inspection was 2019.
Okay, so we need to get it inspected?
We just need to find out what's wrong with it. Yeah, it's gonna have to be inspected every year.
It works, but I don't know if that is the kind of elevator that you want to leave in there and use on a daily basis.
Right, it's a cargo elevator.
Yeah, you need to go get in it, you'll understand better. Yeah, you can't get the doors open.
I didn't ride up it, but Misty and Judge Brinkley rode up it.
Have we not already identified it's gonna have to be replaced?
I thought that was part of the
So,
bill.
you
Yeah.
want to spend $1,500, $2,000 to get it inspected?
I wouldn't. That's why I said,
Inspected, I was trying to get it to where it would work, see what we gotta do.
Hearing some conversation here about getting inspected, you said ultimately it'll have to be, well, the one that we install would.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Oh, yeah. Just-
nobody
just
said
in
we was
general,
gonna inspect it. They just told him. it's supposed to
Elevators
be
in
inspected.
general have to be inspected every year.
No. Yeah, they have to be inspected every year, but, you wouldn't want to put people in that thing every day,
So
the public.
let me ask this question. If the plan is to replace it anyway, then why do we even need to do anything with that at all?
I never said we did.
I don't know enough about the elevator. I know we had a couple out at our previous place that we were able to get certified that all humans, it needed some changes done.
Yeah.
So I still think that we need to go through the process to find out, can this thing been modified? I haven't looked at it, haven't used it. I mean, you walk into it and it's just a platform, no walls, you see cables, is it that kind of deal?
Right now, I can't get the door open. I don't know.
It's got like the old timey cage that you have to close and all that, and I don't think that's really very conducive to the public coming in and out and going up, pushing.
It has like a closet door.
Closet door. Yeah,
I mean, it's really.
it's pretty primitive.
Wouldn't it be prudent to at least ask, and that one be updated?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean, I would think that
It costs more to update it than it would for a new one, but we should still go through that exercise.
How big is it? It's been forever. Is it 4x8, 2x4, 4x6? I mean, if the cabin won't hold 6 or 8 people.
Judge, you need to go look at it.
I need to go look at it. Doors open, Rick, holler at me. All right. Okay, anything else for Rick while you've got him?
But I will say this. You have a nice office building that we got at a very inexpensive price. And if you want something to look professional, I would suggest a machine that's going to carry the people up and down every day ought to.
Not just.
Yeah, just go look at it. You'll understand.
We should at least take a look at what our options are. Thanks, Rick. Item number 14, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding county radio communication systems. Commissioner Hollowell, Mr. Clement, do you guys have updates on the potential lease areas?
I think we're waiting to, the county attorney is going to be writing the lease. I wasn't in town when they went and looked at the site the other day, so I don't, did you go out there? You had tried to call me the night before, and I was out of telephone service, didn't see it till the next morning, and Wesley called me.
I wasn't exactly sure where we were going at Sybil's Bend. In general, I knew, I mean, we drove out there and looked, but
But I told Wesley where it was supposed to be, and he said he remembered. He thought he just was making sure.
I don't think that, well, I talked to Mr. Slaughter this morning to confirm where we thought it should be.
Yeah.
I don't think that we can ask the county attorney to write anything until before I believe Ed had some reservations about actually having a description before we create a document.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sybil's Bend is solidified. I've got the contact information. The surveyor's been asked to go out and do that. Our site at Walnut Bend has a little bit of a problem. We actually had it surveyed, and there's 2 old oil field lines running right through the heart of it. So, we've got some choices. We can possibly move northwest. I'd have to get with the property owner there. Doze a clearing, do some things. Or we may get an opportunity for some type of encroachment agreement from the oil field suppliers. That they're inactive, but they're not going to call them abandoned, and they're not going to give up the right. So maybe that we can sign something if something happened, we would have to pay to have the line rerouted. But it's 65-foot line, so it's not a huge, shouldn't be a huge expense there.
Right through the middle.
Right through the heart. Couldn't have went out there and planned it any better. About 5 or 6 foot apart. So I've been having some phone conversations with the upper echelon of the 2 oil companies. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm going to try to push that the next couple of days so that if we have to relocate, we can get back to the property owner and have to the county, go out there and doze a clearing on the hill and get away from the lines unless you guys tell me different.
Are we still on the timeline that keep us on the schedule that was originally given us, or?
We are they're looking to construct the tires in the June, July timeframe. So that's not an issue if we can get our stuff surveyed. Of course, they're sending out civil engineers and, try to figure out if they're going to be digging in rock and stuff of that nature. And the civil engineers have visited both sides, and both sides were good.
Good.
So that's already been done.
The elevations are good. Well, let's have to move the one, we've,
So
sorry, go ahead.
well, if your site was going to be 100 feet higher, are they still going to put a 300-foot tower up?
My understanding. And the guys that's on the meeting this afternoon, Ray and Judge, remind me to ask that, but the last word I heard, it would still be a 300-foot tower.
Okay.
I think I communicated this, but I want to be sure. We had some conversation about which channels would be simulcast. And the channels that will be simulcast, my understanding, will be the sheriff's office, the emergency management, and the commissioner's channel. Now, the commissioner's channel will still have access to 700. Okay? So now what that does is that pushes EMS to 700. So the immediate concern is, like they have at the fire department, oh my gosh, are we going to be able to talk to them? You have to keep in your mind that every ambulance and every law enforcement vehicle out there has a dual band radio, and they can absolutely talk to fire and EMS. They just cannot do business on the SO channel. Okay? So, unless you guys know otherwise, that'll be the 3 channels that are simulcast. BHM now will currently take place.
Say that one more time.
On which part of it?
The 3 channels.
Okay.
It's gonna be
Now simulcast
simulcast, yeah.
will be the commissioner's team,
Yep,
emergency management,
yep.
and fire. What did I say? I need fire out there. Yeah, I didn't say fire. That's what that. I'm sorry.
I didn't think you said fire, that's why I got you.
Fire. Okay, been fire all along. Gonna be
Okay,
fire. Fire's
okay.
gonna be simulcast.
Okay,
Commissioner's gonna be simulcast.
yes.
Okay? And I got one more.
Emergency management, that's 3.
That, guys, that's where we're at, right?
So emergency.
Oh, yeah, so, okay.
Court, now you've added fire, right?
Yeah,
The primary one we was planning to leave all along and upgrade for is fire.
yeah,
For our BHF.
gotcha.
Then the commissioners,
Yeah,
okay? And then emergency management.
yeah.
And then our fourth would have been EMS, so we're sending EMS to 700.
Okay.
Any questions or concern about that layout? Seems to be the logical one to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that we can do to help you, Gary?
But there's nothing that's gonna happen there, just so the court knows. Don't have the exact number, but I think when we go with EMS, that's gonna add about 20 regulars.
Mobiles for hand carry?
Well, that ambulances, rescue trucks, that will get mobiles, and then each ambulance probably will get 2 portables. I'm not looking at the number, obviously, but that's 14 handhelds, and 7, 8, 9 mobiles, something like that.
Each ambulance has 2 mobiles in it, right?
Yeah, they'll stay independent.
Oh, it's got one in front, one in the back. It's just, I'm sure the 700 can do that too. It's one radio, but it's got a head in the back. Oh, okay. But then chief can have to have one and.
But the chief is support vehicle, okay? I'm not gonna put one in the second support vehicle. And 700 works as well as we think it will. Handhelds are probably gonna be pretty efficient. Not putting in the second support vehicle, I believe. Kevin's still in here? I think he's here.
Backing up just a little bit,
Microphone conscious here. We went from leasing to possibly trying to purchase land. How did that search go? When I say we, I'm talking about the mouse in your pocket.
Really? Okay, what happened was, initially, we looked at some leases and for some options that we couldn't get long-term commitments on. We now have commitments for 45 years.
Okay.
Okay, at reasonable rates with a 10% increase at 10-year intervals. So say if we pay them $400 a month now for the first 10 years, 10 years down the road, it's $440, $480, okay, with 45-year commitments.
Okay. I was curious. That's good with the long-term commitment.
But that way, we're not doing a 10-year thing and they come and tell us to move it 2 weeks down the road.
Never know.
Anybody's got anything, like I said, there'll be a conference call this afternoon, so if y'all think anything you need me to ask them about, please let me know at the court. If you have some insight, please do. Did they contact Parker Electric directly to get a load study?
He called me and talked to me right before work this morning.
Okay. Who's he now?
Some guy from Illinois.
Sure. Oh, I don't know. Okay.
He's
Okay.
From Illinois. I started not to answer the phone, but I've decided to. Just a number from Illinois. Anyway, what they're wanting is more, and I didn't really fully understand what they wanted until I talked to him this morning. They want to know what the maximum usage load is on the building itself. We're talking about Rice Avenue. Because they're trying to determine if there's enough electrical power there, taking the generator into consideration to handle what they're going to put in that building, or do they need to beef it up?
Whether or not we can use the existing generator.
Yeah.
Or whether or not we spend some additional cost to beef it up, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I will get that information to him as soon as I can. It's gonna be in that email that, same guy that emailed you.
Okay.
It was talking about, I don't know what his name is.
But Stanley Shook emailed me, and I think probably you were copied on it, and they asked if we had any problem with them speaking directly to Parker Electric on that study, and I told them we didn't have a problem with that. So they could communicate, get what we wanted, but the Shook's out of Oklahoma City, so I don't know who this cell noise guy is.
But he's an engineer with Motorola. Trying to,
And I think we can ask again, Shook or communicating or what the plan is. So where'd y'all end up? They asked you to do something.
he wants me to ask Parker Electric, or I can do it myself, okay, but, get Parker Electric just to get him information on the maximum load would be if everything in there, air conditioners and everything turned on at the same time, what full is that? There's 200 amp service coming to the building. And then he needs 80 amps available to him for the small building. So, so that already cut it back, we only have 120 out of that 200 amp service that's coming. And, so if we have more than that, then he's gonna have to, reconfigure things. What he's talking about doing, which is an option, is go in the panel that the generator serves and move part of that out of there. Like maybe take the air conditioning load out of it. Make sure the heating load is in there and lighting. So that if it's in the summertime, they'll just get hot for a day or whatever until we get electricity back on. It's in the wintertime, the heat system will still work so we don't freeze pipes. And there will still be lighting in there.
They're talking about pulling the washer and dryer off of it.
Take the washer and dryer off, just things that are not essential for a few hours, you know.
If it cracks.
How much how big is that little building? How much is it pulling now?
Very little. It's got a window unit in it, and then that radio equipment pulls like 4 or 5 amps.
See, there's still some discussion about possibly just doing away with the building they have out there. And they will bring a self-contained cabinet with all the hardware and everything, there's super radios in it and connected to electricity. It will be climate controlled.
That's what they were gonna do anyway.
No, out there, they're looking to see whether or not, which one's most cost effective, whether or not we try to bring the one out there up to code with adequate grounding and stuff of that nature, or just certainly and put a new cabinet. They call it a cabinet, but it's a self-contained.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they call it a cabinet, but it's actually a little tiny building.
and the generator out there at 30 or 35. So what he could do, I guess, if the electricity went off, fell back on the generator wouldn't be picking up the AC, washer and dryer, and non-essential. You be sure the plug for
Here, I think, maybe it would not pick up the water heater.
we need to be sure that they don't, that they wire in the pigtails, the ambulance, for the refrigerators and all that.
Right.
Make sure they don't mess that.
That has to be a part of it. It has to be on generator.
Right, have to be on generator.
But there's a gas heating system in it, a gas furnace. So it won't pull a lot of amperage like it would if it was.
I think you're right on target, at the moment. If you can get that or get it.
Yeah.
Get that.
But I'll get you a figure on that.
Thank you.
You know, it's a lot.
Thank you, Rick. Anything else on the regular system?
So we're gonna be able to communicate with the hospitals, and they got a radio out there too, that we talk about. The EMS talks back and forth to the hospital.
You see. DHL, UHL. DHL. Yeah, they're gonna have to do a main radio. All they're gonna do, that radio is gonna handle 700 UHF. All they're gonna do, just like you put a switch now, go from the sheriff's office to the hospital and talk to them, you should be able just to push a button and talk right to the hospital.
Like, we talked to them, I said, when I was there, it was on our channel. They listen and monitor that channel. The hospitals. So when we get a report, sometimes you're in a CPR, you don't,
Yeah, your channel on VHF is,
yeah, we're all VHF. but they're gonna have to switch over to a VHF channel to be able to talk to them. And then all the stations also have where the captain can hear what's going on.
But they're all gonna have manual, 700 VHF. The charging stations. I don't anticipate putting Fort wants to, I mean, we spend the money, we put a model in each one of them. Our station up, you have to, I guess she replaced the one at the hospital, 700. And then the hospital, not anybody doesn't get 700 in.
Jerry, let's take that, should back that down, and see what the right way to go with it.
I can do that. The concern is, talking to the hospital, and see, I may have missed something, but I thought we would just simply talk to them on VHF, because that frequency's still gonna be there.
I get input from Kevin and some of his team.
So what you're saying is that if it's on 700, you're out, emergency, pick whatever one you want, you're doing CPR, now you gotta try to figure out how to turn the 700 over to VHF.
Right. And they don't hear any of our traffic unless we're over on that. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
that's how come they're trying to get everything together. I know it's expensive, but
It might be easier to put a 700
Yeah.
at the hospital, put them at
Instead
the
of buying
hospital.
400 radios for volunteer
Yeah,
fire departments.
I-
we buy
I think-
hospital.
I think you're gonna be better off.
Good point.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So we'll be sure and confirm, either the VHF stays intact or, but it probably won't be signed. Well, we know it won't be simulcast. And now it's time to buy the radio and just, I think it's all pretty much same coax, everything else.
I guess we would need to buy one for the month.
Yeah, you have to have both of them.
we communicate back and forth. And then this being digital, you don't have any of your, it alleviates a lot of your personal names and that kind of stuff.
The associated info that it tends to put in. Yeah,
That you can't listen, nobody can listen.
yeah,
That might even be illegal.
that'd be good.
Right.
Anything else on radios? All right, we'll leave that on the agenda for next time. We'll move on to item number 15. Deliberate and consider possible action regarding speed limits on county roads. Of course, before we take any action, we'd have to have a public hearing. But I do know there's some concern from a number of people about what's the appropriate speed limits, that we have people driving 65 and 70 down gravel road. And there was some consideration to making it 35 on gravel and 45 on paved unless marked otherwise. There might be instances where you want to mark it at 10 miles an hour. A school or church or, I don't know. So I wanted to add that on this week, just to give everybody a chance to give input.
I'm not going to be an advocate of doing anything countywide. Be left at the commissioner so he can defend it with his constituents.
That needs to be,
Well, the complication with that, as I understand it, is you have to put up signs, and signs get stolen.
well, 35 is,
All over the street, the sign doesn't make anything.
No.
I mean, right now, we got posted 35 and 45, and even before potholes in the public, but they're driving 70.
yeah, and 35 is pretty slow.
35 is awfully slow.
Awfully
I'm
slow.
not saying that's necessarily the speed, that was just an example of one for one and one for the other.
I'm still shielding 6 or 8 calls a week on it from different people, so I'm gonna do something, but I can't make up my mind, 'cause
But, and I have
it'll
no,
go too fast.
but you're building the calls. You know, I get that occasionally, and when I explain to them, I can put them up, 1 or 2 things gonna happen. 1, they're gonna steal them. 2, there's not anybody, and this is absolutely not showing there's disrespect to law enforcement. There's not enough to go around.
No.
But there's not a law enforcement guy there, so it don't make any difference what you post, you know. And what will inevitably happen, you go post them all at 35, the person complaining is gonna get caught running 45, and get a ticket, and then they're gonna be upset again.
Yeah.
So,
I explained to him, it's time to get stolen. We got a lot of road to cover with law enforcement. Got to try, it's out of control.
You know, I pick the ones, if I got several people on the road complaining, and I take that into consideration. If I got one person on the road complaining, I'm not gonna make the other people unhappy. So,
I believe half of my little green road number signs are missing again. That's a different issue, but it's about the signs. Speed limit signs, reflectors, they pull them up. Well, delineators, I call them reflectors, they call them delineators. Just about any kind of sign in the world gets stolen. Well, you all know that. Yeah. And, I think that needs to.
and then you got one guy doing nothing but going every day, because as soon as you put them up, they come up with it, they go, hey, your sign's down. You know, so it's a maintenance.
I think it needs to stay precinct by precinct. I agree.
So if we agree with that, even though there's a no action thing today, the action simply is let the commissioner submit the road that he wants changed and run them in the paper, just like we continue to, just like we do.
Yeah.
Take that one off.
Okay, we'll remove that, no action. Item 16, deliberate and consider possible action regarding various grant funds. Have anybody here to talk about grants? Kelly, anything there that can help you with?
For the 15 flood, I got an email last week requesting the backup data for 4 of Precinct 4's roads that I submitted in 2019. And when I submitted them, I told them that they couldn't blame that on Ernst & Young, that the data was submitted to their own people. And I got an email back that said, oh, we did have this data.
And just think, are you gonna have those same folks for all this COVID CARES Act money and everything?
No, the CARES money is a different group.
Is that gonna be this new Biden plan too? Or that,
I don't know.
These are federal employees,
No, they're
state?
state go-betweens that are auditing
auditing firms?
Okay,
because the state has the FEMA money and before they release it.
When I complete a road, Shelley sends it in with all the appropriate documentation, and then they go through it and approve it. They've been complaining that Ernst & Young lost all the data, but they had it all the time.
Which was the auditing group before the one we have
Yeah.
now.
so we think we have a clear line of sight to get this resolved now, or?
No.
They've had it for 2 years, they haven't done anything with it.
Well, is this something that Springer or Spiller can help?
No.
It's just the way, nature of the beast.
Okay,
I haven't submitted anything for the 2020 COVID-19 Fema Grant. The CARES Act, I got a phone call last week that they didn't like the way I submitted the documents based on their training video. They've changed up how they want it. And so now I have 4 pages of corrections. So I've got to do that. The public safety grant, I have $5,700 left to spend. And for the February paper-ready inmates, they had 1 inmate that I can use $2,600, so now I have roughly $2,600, somewhere in there. I have over $2,000 that my grant administrator said I could use for any COVID-related. So what y'all approved on the agenda today was on the consent, they needed the resolution change to show Steve Starnes is now the county judge instead of Jason Brinkley before they release the funds anyway. But I can go in and submit some PPE or something the jail has bought outside of the CARES grant and claim the rest of that money, and that grant will be finished. The CTIF grant, I did, like I told you before, book the revenue that's supposed to come in for precinct 3 and 4, since they've completed their work. I haven't turned it in, but it's booked. And the elections grant, it is not what's left is the HABA grant, and it is not due to be completed till the end of this year, 12 of 2021. So I can't even, they haven't even opened it up yet to submit expenses. So I can't even close that one out, even though we've spent the money and I'm ready to close that one out, not till the end of the year. And then with the Biden, I don't even know what it's called, officially. The estimated, NACO is estimated we are gonna get $8 million. We have not been officially notified how much money we're gonna get, and we're not gonna get it all at once. It's gonna be partialed out, some this year and some in a couple of years from now. They don't even have any guidance yet on how to spend it. They're asking auditors across, finance people, auditors across the state, country, how do we see that the money needs to be spent, and taking guidance questions. So I don't even know when it's going to be issued. The deadline was like last Wednesday for questions. So I can't give you any answers on that money yet. I know the second half was supposed to be, it says it's for infrastructure updates, but there's no definition on what an infrastructure update is. So,
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Anything else?
no.
Anyone else have anything for Shelley on grants? Okay, item number 17, executive session in compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code, Earnings Texas Code. So we'll go into executive session now, Christian. We will continue in regular session now. Commissioner Hollowell had to leave for another appointment, but we still have this for the last two agenda. Item number 20, we'll come back to item number 19. Item number 20, deliberate and consider possible actions on public health emergency declaration for COVID. Ray, you got something for us?
Yes, sir, I can give you the latest updates anyway. I provided you, I believe the first page is the latest update on active cases. It's 42 as of Friday. We've had 4 new over the weekend that I know of that have been reported to us. We did, I believe, have another fatality over the weekend that we're still working on. The next one is from the daily PSA report we get from Trauma Service Area E. And it continues to show cases declining overall. It appears to slow down just a little bit. It's not as dramatic a decline as it was, but they are starting to continuing to decline. Hospital occupancy data, we're showing 3 patients currently in Cooke County hospitals, none in ICU, so that's also a good thing. And the overall county percentages of hospitalized patients with COVID for Cooke County, they've got us at 4.92%. The positivity rate, the TSA Region E as a group is at 4.74% occupancy. So again, all good indicators at this point that things are going in the right direction. We continue to vaccinate all who are signed up and we can get in touch with to come get their vaccinations. There's people coming, just checked the list this morning. The recent signups, almost half of them are from outside the county. And so our efforts are going well in getting the population in Cooke County that are 1B or education related, over 50, 18 to any age with pre-existing conditions. So, I think there is some perception out there that we're not doing enough for possibly the senior population who can't sign up. And yes, we do encourage, especially those that don't have the ability to sign up for a friend, neighbor, or relative to do that for them. We're very cautious if we sign them up because if we sign them up, who's going to bring them to the appointment if they don't have transportation? So that someone is out there to look out for them is a good thing. We're also working with our local providers to develop homebound inoculation efforts or vaccination efforts. So we're not forgetting about anybody. It's just a challenge to get to as many people as we can. And I think at this point we have gotten to the significant majority that want the vaccine that fit in those categories.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate everything you and your team are doing. It's going really smooth. Is there anything you need from the court? Are you getting the support you need?
Yes, sir. Just one last thing to remind everyone that the second shots with the change in the shipment policy by the state, we did have to move those a week further than they were for the last couple of weeks. It doesn't change the efficacy or the timeliness. We were doing them a day or two early. Now we'll be doing them a day or two on the other end of that spectrum. But
So it'll be next week.
sir, it will
It'll
be
be next
Tuesday.
week,
Yes, sir. Yeah, those that had second shots for tomorrow, the 23rd of March, we'll have them on the 30th of March at the Gainesville Civic Center, same date, same time as they got their first one.
Anything else for Ray? Thank you, Ray.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, item number 19. Deliberate and consider possible approval of hiring a clerk for the district attorney's office. We did a little research. Would you guys be willing to hire a temporary using your forfeiture fund? Would that be an acceptable condition for you until we get to budget time? To give you the reasoning behind our thinking is that in order to find budget and add an additional person permanently, we'd have to declare an emergency. So our recommendation is the best way forward would be to make it a temporary position using forfeiture fund until October, and then we can reassess in October what we can do from a permanent basis.
That certainly is an option, yes, sir.
Okay? Your thoughts?
Well, we are in need of a support staff person. We are trying to rearrange our offices to go to a legal assistant organization where the 3 support staff that we have now will each would become a legal assistant, and then we would need a person to do the duties of managing asset forfeiture, restitution, other duties such as filing, checking boxes, answering phone calls, general duties that aren't case specific. We believe that that would be the most cost-effective way without spending more and more money. We're not asking for another attorney at this point. Eventually, I think that conversation could be held. But at this point, having one more support staff person would be most beneficial to our office. And yes, we are willing to do that. I do want to address one thing with the court is come budget time, it would be hard to hire somebody and then 6 months later say, well, your position wasn't filled, goodbye. And it would be hard on our office if we organized it as such and then we had to go back to previous.
We fully understand that, but we're not in a position to make an obligation at this point because we don't know what the revenue will be or what the other budgets. We're certainly going to be sensitive to that fact, but if we would have to make this a temporary position, of course, that person would have to know that at this point it's a temporary contingent on availability of budget in October.
May we talk about it? May I talk about it in the office and get back to the court concerning the final decision?
Sure. Okay. I'm good with that. We'll take no action. The only thing is we'll have to put it back on the agenda for next court.
I understand.
Okay, is that okay with you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have one concern too. I know we had talked about, we would obviously need equipment for this person. I'm not worried about where we would put the person, really. We can find a spot in our office, but we would need a computer and a desk. Is that something that the county would be able to budget for now to assist us in getting those things?
We'd have to do a little research, but I believe that both of those are available.
Okay.
We have spare computers, and I believe, now, of course, that's an asset, so we'll have to fund it somewhere, but Shelley, jump in here. And we have desk over at the Crest Building.
Okay.
I know Daryl has extra computers.
Do we have the phone extensions? I know.
Or he gonna need a phone?
Yes.
In other words, is there enough room for another phone, is what you're asking?
Yeah, because, Daryl's been saying the phones need to be replaced. I don't know if there's enough.
I know there's one phone that's there was another office for a reserve investigator at one point, or another phone for a reserve investigator in our office at one point, and I'm not sure where it goes, but I think there is another outlet somewhere, because
You have a blank extension?
Yes.
Have you used extension?
Yes, ma'am.
They haven't unused.
So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay, that's the only other concern I might have, because, okay.
I don't see that being a big deal.
Thank
If
you.
there's not blank space for the phone, that's a big deal.
Right, yeah, that is.
But there is.
Unused extension.
Yeah, I understand.
Used wrong.
It doesn't matter. We knew what you meant.
Thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. We're gonna take no action. Okay. 21, future agenda item.
But wait.
Oh, yes. I had a copy of it. What do I do with it? Kathy run off with it?
Here, you want a copy of hers? Whoops, I'm sorry. There we go.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Okay, supplemental notice. Deliberate and consider possible approval of TAC property insurance renewal for 2021.
So move. Well, I mean, that's all we're doing, right? I make a motion that we renew the tax property renewal.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Clement to renew the TAC property insurance. A second from Commissioner Arndt. Any further discussion?
I mean, you didn't want to talk about it for a while, do you?
All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We will approve property tax insurance renewal. All right, item 21, future agenda items. Nobody have anything?
Come back to 18 also. Oh. I just now realized that when Ed walked the door, we got to come back to 18 too.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. Thank you for catching that.
What are we missing?
Deliberate and number 18.
No.
Since Ed's back in here, deliberate and consider possible approval of interlocal agreement with the city of Valley View.
So move that we approve it the way the good county attorney wrote it for us.
I have a motion to accept it the way it is currently written by Commissioner Clement.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Snuggs. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 4-1. We will use the interlocal agreement that Ed currently has drawn up as is. Item 21, future agenda items. Anybody have anything that we need to add? Yeah, we just did no action. It'll be back on there.
And you're gonna get a hold of, I know you don't have enough to do, but you're gonna get a hold of TxDOT and iron that little mess out. And, yeah, I think it would be good if you went and looked at that elevator.
Okay, I'll do both of those.
I mean, it's, and, well, never mind.
Sure. Nothing else?
No,
Okay.
that other issue we were talking about,
Item 22,
you're gonna send that letter on the lot.
to extend it to each corner of his building. 10 by 65, I believe. Item 22, adjourn. Motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Snuggs to adjourn, a second from Commissioner Arndt. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 4-1. Christian.